Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome along to World Online Racing. We're here this evening for the final round of the Challengers tier. It is the final week of Challenger Series action for PlayStation, Xbox, and PC, and we are here once again for the final practice race. Beforehand, my name is Evan Dalton, and joining me for the first time in a while, actually, it is Steve. How are you doing, Steve?
I'm doing very good, Evan. How are you?
I am not too bad. I need to hold on, fix your camera because you look very small on that. We'll get Steve fixed. But ladies and gentlemen, it is going to be an interesting race this evening. We head to the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, a circuit where the first race was held in 1973 on the old 7.960 kilometer circuit. That closed in 1980, and the new 4.309 kilometer layout was opened in 1990. And we can take a look at that new layout now. As you can see it on your screens, it is 4.309 kilometers, 2.677 miles with 15 corners. It is going to be an interesting one. Steve, what can we look forward to this evening?
We might see a few DRS trains around a circuit like this. DRS is a very prominent sort of addition to this circuit. You need the DRS to really make some of the moves around here. But with the DRS trains, you could also see a lot of action, though, but with drivers maybe at the back, knowing there's no safety car for strategy, just trying to get up as high as possible. So there can be some moves if someone's a bit out of position. But overall, this track will surely give us some good entertainment, and there is a very high chance of maybe some wet weather being involved, so hopefully, we're going to be in for a good one.
Yeah, high chance of some wet weather, of course. It can usually be very mixed here in Interlagos, or certainly the game allows for that. Another interesting factor is the fact straight line speed is not as important as you might think. 13% engine power loss up that hill due to more downforce and wing needed for less oxygen, because the circuit is above 800 meters above sea level, very similar to the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico. But we're almost getting ready to go for full qualifying. We have 20 drivers this evening. An interesting element is that we have a lot of debuts here this evening. We have a lot of drivers who are having a chance in this tier. Few people that Steve will have raced against in his T3 championship. I was going to say championship win this season, but my goodness me, you weren't even close. But in the championship season, a lot of debuts. So a few people to spring some surprises. It should be an interesting one. You can almost treat it as the first round of a season. But we are almost getting ready to go. We will be in a moment's time. And while we are waiting, we would like to take the chance to... I've lost my train of thought. Yeah, there we go. I'd like to once again just remind you of our sponsors for this evening. Next Level Racing and Grid Finder, of course. You can find your grid, I suppose. League is what I'm getting at. But you can find your league on Grid Finder today. Folks, the Evan Dalton waffling can officially stop as we are joining into the session for qualifying. 17 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock here in qualifying 1. Let's see how this one plays out.
Yeah, surely going to be a very entertaining qualifying session. This track, a lot of people are very close to each other because it's not a long lap. It's about a 1:06 lap time. So drivers are very, very close. Fine margins, and every thousandth of a second counts around a circuit like Brazil. So, yeah, it's going to be a very entertaining qualifying session. I mean, to be fair, for once when it comes to, Challenge has always had a few PlayStation drivers, but it's not too one-sided to Xbox. I know there is quite a few, but I feel like there's a lot more PlayStation drivers today.
Good, because I actually know a few of them, for once, as we have what George Morgan is calling the unofficial Inters Championship here in the Challengers tier. Of course, because we have 3 parts of qualifying, drivers don't want to use their tyres, and they are going to use a set of the intermediates to start off the session here in Brazil, as we are looking at Schumacher entering in towards the uphill turn number 6 of Ferradura, a very difficult corner. We can see some mistakes on the exit of turn number 7. Lewis Hamilton infamously crashing in 2017 here in Brazil. But he started did he start 14th on the day? Yeah, I think it was a Q2 crash. Oh, I can't remember.
It was a Q2 crash.
It was a Q2 crash. Look at my racing knowledge once again shining. But we currently have 4 cars out on the circuit. This is Schumacher, Rain, Wilson, Kai, and now Levy joins them. Harvey Cowan saying in the stream chat, "Watch it rain. It's raining at the end of the race," says somebody. So let's hope that is true. But this first bit of qualifying doesn't really matter, folks. We're not going to see the quickest times of the day put in here.
No, this is basically where everybody's just making sure their setups are okay, just getting a feel for the track conditions as well. I know you might think, oh, they're on intermediates, they're not really going to be the best grip. You still find your way around the circuit. You see how sort of each corner feels overall. But yeah, this is really just set up, make sure everything is A-okay. I mean, they can't even change it because part firmway's off, but they need to have their setup in probably tin-top condition. Because, it really, really matters around the circuit like this to have a good qualifying. You can make your way up the order like Lewis Hamilton did in 2021, but, yeah, it's something that, especially in challenges, you need to be at the very front to get the maximum result you possibly could get.
Yeah, unfortunately, overtaking is not easy in high league racing because everybody is at such a similar pace. It's not an easy feat to do. It's not as easy as Lewis Hamilton found it in 2021, probably, in that rocket ship of a Mercedes, but still impressive on that day. This lap by Schumacher won't be so impressive because, of course, he is on a wet tyre. It's not the slowest, it's a 1:11.7, and that tyre is not the slowest because, of course, the wet tyres can run on dry track. They're just designed for rougher surfaces and rain. So they have grooves, but they're just like your everyday road tyre. There goes Kai to the top 1:11.262. But as we said, this literally doesn't matter. If that gets you in towards Q2, then I would be very surprised.
I mean, if 5 drivers invalidate their lap times, then maybe, but that is something you probably wouldn't really see around a circuit like Brazil. You can invalidate, especially in that first sector, as Rain goes up into second and Wilson into first. But this track, invalidating's quite tricky once you're past the first sector. The middle sector, all tight and twisty, isn't really too many places to cut. The final sector, pretty much one corner. So, yeah, it's going to be very difficult for many drivers to invalidate their lap times. Maybe, unlike recent weeks, of course, while I've been here, maybe some shocks might not be too prominent in qualifying because it's just a bit more of an easier circuit on the track limits compared to the ones that we've had at the start of the season.
It's an easier circuit, and we're also missing some of the front runners, of course. Harvey Cowan and Denirko both winning their respective championships in the Challenger Series, so look, they don't really have anything to practice for, do they? They can sort of just rock up and just see if they win in the main event. So they're not here this evening. We are missing Rudy as well. We have Legend returning this evening. He's down in 15th, not even bothering to come out on circuit. Bob Boynton is in 8th position now, and so is the birthday boy, Jack Laverty. Turns 17 today, does the American, and he is getting on his merry way here in the intermediate tyres. So Jack, I don't know if you can hear us or not, probably can't, but we do wish you a happy birthday live from the commentary box. Oh, finally, a man on the softs.
Oh, and it's another American, actually. It's Skitzer.
I'm glad you said it, because I did not know how to say that word.
Yeah, it's Skitzer. It's very difficult to say, I'll give you that.
Skitzer.
When I first saw it, yeah.
Skitzer,
it is
okay.
very, very, very difficult.
Harvey in the stream chat saying we got to still practice. Oh yeah, no, I well believe it. I was just giving a reason for why you're not here this evening. But Skitzer is going to get the first lap underway here in qualifying. The man on the slick, soft tyres. He's down in 17th, heading in towards turn number 1. Looking to use about 4th gear. This is the Senna S's, named after the famous Ayrton Senna da Silva, who unfortunately lost his life in 1994 at the San Marino Grand Prix, which was in Imola, which was meant to have happened a few hours ago, but of course it didn't, due to heavy flooding in the Emilia-Romagna region of Italy. We do hope everyone's okay if you do live in the Emilia-Romagna region, or just Italy as a whole if you are watching this evening. Hope everything's all good there, but skies are... I've already messed that up, haven't I, Steve? Skitzer. Is it Skitzer?
It's Skitzer, yeah.
Skitzer, okay. Oh, Evan Dalton, trying to be a commentator.
Yep.
What better way would you spend your Sunday evenings than listening to this? Skitzer then heading in towards Yun Sao. That is, of course, going purple, as he's the only man to set a lap on the soft compound tyres. He's heading up towards turn number 14 and in towards turn number 15 of Aqui Bancades. And I can say that, but I can't say Skitzer as he comes across the start-finish line. It's going to be top, a 107.2. That's not a bad lap at all, actually, from Skitzer for a banker here in Quali 1.
No, not really, especially with the track being very green at this moment in time, because there's no rubber being laid down on the circuit yet, really. These drivers have gone out in the intermediates. It still hasn't really evolved the track enough to maybe get into the sixes. I mean, Skitzer is a very, very quick driver. I think he is the WR Tier 1 champion on console. Don't take my word on it, but I think he is. But yeah, so not many drivers have really set lap times. Yes, I agree. But now we've got Jerry as well on a lap. Talent Factory Jerry, as he's coming in to the middle sector now. And yeah, we're now going to get some competitive times on the board as everyone's now starting to come out the pit lane. That
lap is comfortably through for Skitzer, by the way. We didn't even need to bother coming back out again. That lap will be well above the cut-off point. Jerry Van Bussel, a man who excelled in the Blue Controller League, as it's being dubbed around here. He's not excelling in towards the entrance of Yun Sao, heading through turn number 10 of Mergulio. He has spun round, and the Haasman will have to head back to the pit lane, recharge the battery, get a fresh set of boots on, and that's not gone to plan for Van Bussel heading through that corner. He will have to just settle down, just rethink it, and not make a mistake like that again. Next man to go on a qualifying lap, as we see Skitzer retiring from the session. Yeah, may as well. Not going to be beaten, or I say be beaten, it might be beaten, but he's not going to be knocked out of the session, that is for sure. Next man to go on a lap, I believe, is going to be Kai, as he's rounding through Yun Sao and heading up towards turn number 13, 14 and 15. Turn number 15, you take a wide approach to start your lap to get the best run down towards turn number 1, but you want to keep it nice and tight on the run in. Here comes Kai then in towards the Senna S's. The Red Bull used to be a car that ran really well around this Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache back when it was a car that was built on mainly downforce, but now it's the best of both worlds in modern day Formula 1, so you usually see cars that are better in the downforce sort of tracks, like Mercedes, and Kai actually backing out of that one. That's peculiar. It was a decent first sector.
Yeah, it was a very decent first sector for Kai, maybe just not really happy overall with maybe the balance of the car on that lap. I mean, Wilson's now heading into the middle sector, now heading through turn 9, which will then lead up to the fast right-hander down to third gear, and then into turn 10 and into 11, which is this long left-hander where we saw Jerry spin round very wide, actually, from Wilson as we now head into Yun Sao. Very nicely done. Just clipping that inside curb, running it all the way out, and then keeping a tight line through 13, 14 and 15 to try and maximise the amount of speed you can carry down the straight and minimise the time lost. Here comes Wilson to the line, slots into P2, stays second, actually, for 1 minute 7.4, and Levi goes into third with a 1 minute 7.6.
Yeah, decent lap there from Levi. Next across the start-finish line is going to be one of the Mercs. I think it's going to be Rain. It is going to be Rain. He goes to 5th. Then it'll be one of the Red Bulls. That will be Kai, of course, starting a lap. So Rain has to get out of the way, which he does. Just runs off into the runoff of turn number 1. Schumacher on a lap as well, as is Axe there, just getting underway. It'll be a Ferrari next of Murphy. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, just had a moment of hay fever. I don't know if you suffer as well, Steve, but I think if we're both sneezing in this commentary box, it might be a bit annoying. I apologise for that, folks. There was not much you could do there, as Schumacher is heading up through turn number 15. This is a decent run so far. Is he going to touch the 107? No, 107.7. And that's only good enough for 9th. Next across the start-finish line is Bradders. It's the man who won in Challengers last week, I believe. I think he did, but I think Bradders won. I don't know if you saw it, Steve.
I don't know.
I know. I think he won. I'm not so sure. Bobberts is another man on a run as he heads up towards the Bico de Pato, which, here's a fun fact for you, actually means duckbill in Portuguese. I definitely didn't find that out about 10 minutes ago, as Bobberts is heading through the downhill left-hander of Mergulio. Rudy goes to third. Why did I say Rudy wasn't here? Rudy is very much here, ladies and gentlemen, and he goes to third. Legend is the man in front of him in second position, but none of them getting close to that lap from Skitzer so far. Here comes his teammate, though, Bobberts, rounding through the final corner, and up and across the line comes Bobberts, and that's going to be 9th position for him. It's next going to be, I thought it was going to be Kai, but it's not. It's one of the Williamses heading into the pit lane. It'll be Jack Laverty who heads into the pit lane. Also, is Keane going to get a lap on the board, or apologies, is Bourbon Boy? No, Bourbon Boy just going to start his run. Is Keane going to get a lap in? He's currently 17 seconds up on his time. This one should really go near his TF teammates, a Legend and Rudy. This shouldn't really be trouble for Keane to get in towards queue number 2, and he is. He's going to get in 6th position. Maybe not the most comfortable, but because it is, there is a bit of improvement with track evolution on this circuit, but Wilson and Choco certainly comfortable. Oh, Choco, is that going to be a bit of a risk? But he obviously feels that it's okay to retire. This Bourbon Boy heading in towards turn number 8.
Yeah, so we've actually said that Schizo might be beat. He's not been beaten so far, and that was first run's done quite comfortably after his initial run. Bourbon, though, heading through turn 11, and he's Aston Martin 20th at the moment. Not got time on the board, a 53.0 in that middle sector. So now heading through Junsawan and up the hill. Doesn't seem like this will be the greatest of laps. He's actually run out of fuel, I think, as he's heading to the line. So he's going to have to come into the pit lane, put on a fresh set of boots. Unfortunately, that's not really what he would have wanted. But yeah, that's him staying in P20. If not a time on the board, Placky is also probably on an in lap now. He's in P14. But to be fair, Choco retiring is going to be very risky because, I mean, look at the gap between him and Kai. Kai is surely going to improve 5 tenths. Everyone below him surely going to improve. So Choco maybe is in a bit of the chopping block here, and he's up in 6th place.
Yeah, it's not that big a gap between 16th and 7th. It is still a solid 4 tenths of a second, but will there be a bit of trouble here for Choco? No, I can't really imagine so. I think he'll be okay, but it's certainly risky. It's not as comfortable as he would have liked it, but I think he will be okay. I cannot see everybody behind him improving to that level. Of course, we haven't seen proper laps yet from the Grief, Jack, Axe and Bourbon Boy. But we are heading into the final parts of the session now. Jerry van Bussel retiring. I think he'll be comfortable because he is slightly ahead. The two Hasses separated by 0.02 of a second. Kai is on an outlap. We saw Kai back out of his first lap here, but he's going to be the next man to attempt this Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache. Yes, Steve, it's starting to get a little bit dull here.
Yeah, it is. So we could maybe see some rain on the cards in the next session in Q2, maybe even in Q3. Excuse me. But it might just be a bit overcast overall. I mean, Brazil, we don't know what the weather's going to do around here because most of the time it's either wet, dry, or just in between. There's crossover conditions. So we're just going to have to wait and see as the session continues. Kai started off the last runs in front of everybody else, and now he's on the final run of the session. Might get a bit of traffic on his lap. We've got Williams moving out the way quite nicely out the pit lane for him. He's up by nearly 3 tenths of a second in this first sector. So if he's able to keep up this momentum, he's surely going to be safe from the elimination zone.
Yeah, well, here he comes then, Kai, heading in towards the uphill right-hander. And down in towards turn number 8. It's turn number 9 next of Pinheirinho. And then it is the Bico de Pato right-hander, which is really tricky. Red Bull not having some great memories at this corner. Of course, Alexander Albon being spun round by Sir Lewis Hamilton back in 2019. Kai is kind of like that one, though. This is a very good lap from Kai. He's 5 tenths up, and this will be so comfortable that he could probably back out on a lap now, and he'd still get through to quali 2. Heading in towards the final section of the track. And here comes Kai across the start-finish line. That's going to put him third on the grid provisionally. Excellent run by him. Next to complete their qualifying, it is going to be Axe F1 as he is rounding through the final corners, improving by 3 seconds here, but of course he is 4.4 off the pace. Here comes Axe rounding down. Where's this lap going to put the Alfa Romeo? That puts him 12th. Decent attempt from Axe. It'll be Levi next across the line. That'll put him 8th, and he is comfortably through, I would say, to the next part of qualifying. It is then Schumacher, the next man to face. It's going to be the German, and across the start-finish line here. Where's this going to put the Alpine? That puts him 11th now. He beats Kimber through there. It's then the Red Bull across the line to start in lap. It's then going to be Jack Lafferty. That's 14th. That could be trouble for Jack. Here's Bourbon Boy in towards 10th. That could be safe through. Rain then is fighting for his life here. Or is he actually just starting a lap? Believe he's going for another attempt. So Rain is going to have one more bite of the cherry here to try and decide his fate. Here comes Placky across the start-finish line. He's going to go into 7th position. Very good run there. Bobberts now the next man. Is he safely through? He's not. No improvement for Bobberts. He's out of qualifying here, unfortunately. The first man to confirm his fate. There's a big improvement by Kimber, who goes to 7th. The other Red Bull pulling into the pit lane. Jack is the man on the cut-off point, or is he? Actually, no, he's already out. Sorry, it's Schumacher who is on the cut-off point. Axe is into the pit lane. That's the end of qualifying for him. No improvement from Rain. What can Legrief find in the first sector? We will see 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th and 20th out of qualifying here, of course, folks. Although that fate has already been sealed by Jack, Axe and Bobberts. This is for Rain to knock Schumacher out of quali 1. He's improving, but is he improving by enough? He doesn't need to find an awful lot of time in this final sector, and he's headed through Yonsao. It's the final corner. He's just relying on all his tools here to get him towards the start-finish line. There's a slow Alpine to his right-hand side. Here comes Rain across the start-finish line, and he knocks Schumacher out of qualifying. Schumacher watched it happen beside him, and he saw that he has been knocked out of qualifying. Is it a double elimination for Alpine? It is, as Legrief pulls into the pit lane. Bobberts, is he on the lap? He is not. And that is qualifying 1, ladies and gentlemen.
That was a very decent end to the qualifying session, and Kean and Murphy, who retired up in what, like they were P7 and P8, I think, when they retired. Murphy was on the cusp of elimination. If Jack or Schumacher just improved by like a tiny bit more, they would have been knocked out of the session right there, and that could have been costly, especially for Kean. He's very, very quick, so that would have been someone a bit out of place. I mean, you could say Jack's a bit out of place as well, actually. He's usually up there in crossplay tier 2 when he is racing, and getting knocked out in Q1, certainly something that he is not going to be happy of. And I think he actually won here in crossplay tier 2, didn't he? On the opening race of the season.
No, Kimber did. It is Skitzer top of the session. Then it's in Legend, Kai, Rudy, Wilson, Brothers, Kimber, Placky, Jerry, Choco, Levi, Bourbon Boy, Rain, Keane, Murphy, and those who will play no further part is Schumacher, Jack, Axe, Bobberts, Legrief. Folks, don't go anywhere. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to World Online Racing Challengers tier. I was going to say crossplay tier. It is technically a crossplay tier, but Challengers tier is the word I was looking for. It's overcast, it's getting a bit dull. Take down your sun umbrella and get the rain one up, ladies and gentlemen. I wouldn't be pouring an extra lemonade, I'd be prepping the coffee machine for a nice cup of hot cocoa, as everybody is coming out of the pit lane very early on here in the session, which would indicate to me that we're going to get a few droplets towards the end of qualifying too. We have 15 drivers in this part of the session, and if you're new to Formula 1 and league racing, we will see 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th and 15th knocked out of this part of qualifying, and they will have their grid slots decided come the end of this 15-minute session. Leave a comment down below on what you think is going to be the cutoff point and who you think is going to be knocked out here in this session, as we see TF Keen leading us out into the second part of qualifying. All but 3 out on the circuit, and it's getting very dull all of a sudden. This might just be a bit of an interesting session, and we might have seen the quickest lap come in qualifying 1, because the track is cooling, meaning they have to work a little bit harder to get these tyres up to temperature. If this was Indy 500 qualifying, which is going on at the minute, and the drivers would be loving this, because a cooler track in Indy equals a quicker track, and not so much in Formula 1 and league racing, especially when there is rain on the way. Here comes Talent Factory's Keen, though, to get the session underway. He is just heading through the center S's now, using all that curve. He's going to try straighten up the car as best as he can, heading through turn number 3. It's turn number 4 then, which is the Decido del Lago. You have to spot your braking zone down in towards turn number 4, and then this turn number 5 is a flat out left, but you can sometimes see incidents there between 2 drivers trying to go side by side on the entry to turn number 6, which is of course Ferradura, and then turn number 7 and 8, which are very quick consecutive right-handers. Bit of a wobble here. This Aston Martin is not looking as smooth as it has been in previous races, and you can see Keen just battling his machinery around the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache. Maybe he's not as comfortable with his car as he was in the first part. Was almost knocked out in the first part of qualifying, really. It wasn't that much of a risk from a time perspective, but if you went purely based off positions, it might have been a bit of an issue. But Keen is not looking as comfortable here on this lap as he has in previous, but let's see what the Dutchman can do heading across the start-finish line. It's going to be a 1:07.9 for Keen, maybe older tyres potentially, as Legend goes to the top there. There goes Skitzer. It is older tyres now for these guys. They are running on scrub sets, because we saw Skitzer do a 1:07.2 in the first part of qualifying. This is old tyres. Levi goes to the top. There is Wilson in to the top now, 1:07.6. It seems like it's always improving. It's going to be Jerry Van Bussel across the start-finish line now, although he's just getting qualifying underway here in the second part. That's Bradders up to 4th as Kai is out. That is Kai out of the session. He has crashed here in qualifying, heading through turn number, almost into turn number 10. It's the exit of 9. You can see there he's lost it. Kai is out of qualifying. That is sort of a rookie error there, unfortunately, for Kai, but he's out.
Yeah, that is a very odd place to actually crash the car. Maybe spinning round usually happens a lot there, but crashing into that wall is very, very odd around here. I mean, very rare you see a car off into that barrier, but maybe that's one driver out of place in this qualifying session, to say the least. Kai was quite far up the order last in Q1 last time out, but yeah, this is mainly going to be scrub set runs. I wouldn't really expect many drivers to be on the fresh sets, maybe the ones that were on the verge of getting knocked out last time out in Q1. So yeah, mainly scrub tyre runs them, so not the driver's real pace. It seems that now the circuit's lighting up a bit, so the sun's starting to appear through the clouds, so I wouldn't expect any rain, to be fair, with also the drivers being on their scrub sets. So yeah, it seems that we're in for a normal Q2 weather-wise, so hopefully when we get onto the fresh sets on the next runs, it will be a very, very quick qualifying session, and also Skitzer or someone gets into the 1:06 6s.
You are more than welcome to pour yourself a nice fresh glass of lemonade now, ladies and gentlemen. But a trend that we've sometimes seen here in the Challengers tier is that the person who tops Q1 and Q2 usually doesn't take pole. Is that a good omen for Skitzer or not? We'll have to wait and see, as we are getting ready to see the drivers back out. They'll probably wait, or most of them will probably wait until towards the end of the session, as we do see a McLaren and a Mercedes engineer pulling out their cars, and as does the Ferrari of Wilson, I believe, as that is going to be Choco who's going out for the Haas camp. It's obviously going to be Skitzer for the McLaren, because we did see the other McLaren be knocked out in the first part of qualifying. I believe there was only one double elimination, which was for Alpine, where they had none of their cars into the second part of the session. Everybody else, I believe, still has at least one. and some obviously having 2. But starting to get a bit sunny here. This means track temperature will come up, and I imagine it's now a fresh set of tyres for most of these guys.
Yeah, it's probably going to be a fresh set. I mean, Skits has only had 1 run, so yeah, it's mainly going to be fresh sets for most of these drivers. I mean, there's probably going to be the odd 1 or 2 that went out for 2 runs last time out and might go on an extra scrub set this time around. But the track's going to be heating up now. The times are certainly going to get quicker, especially with the amount of drivers that are coming on the track at once. So expect the track to start to get really rubbered in this session, and the times will certainly be tumbling as we go on in the session. And I mean, come near the end, we could see maybe a few drivers get into those 1-minute 6s, but Skits is starting he's that through the center S's. Nicely done by him. Now into turn 3, long left-hander, keeping it on the curb just to straighten out the car. And now DRS open, down the straight into turn 4. You want to brake about the 100-meter board, get it turned in, clip the left-hand apex over to the right-hand side, use all the track available, and then you're into the middle sector pretty much, and the tight and twisty part of the circuit.
Yeah, decent so far from Skitzer. He's going to be one who's looking to just comfortably make it into Q3. I imagine he doesn't want to do much more than this lap, and he might not have to. We're going to see the second sector split just after turn number 10. And down the hill in towards turn number 11. It is actually after turn number 11. I do apologise. It's here just on the entrance into Yunsao. Yeah, 6 cents of a stream is still going. Apologies, folks, if
Do I have you as a friend?
Apologies, folks. I hope you can still hear us. We're just going to have to go to the thumbnail for a brief moment. Everything still seems to be working, which is quite odd. We will. Hopefully, we can get back in.
Are you friends with Schumacher on the game?
Well, we'll try and get this sorted, folks. We'll be back live to you in a couple of seconds. Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to World Online Racing Challengers Tier. I do apologise for that, we were literally just waiting for a driver to invite me back to the session. But yeah, we're back anyways. This is qualifying 3. Steve, run us through who got knocked out of quali 2.
It was Murphy, Rain, Bourbon, Kai obviously, and I've actually completely forgotten the other driver. Who was it? Kimber, it was Kimber.
So that is who got knocked out of the second part of qualifying. We're into the final part of qualifying. This will decide who takes pole for the Brazilian Grand Prix. There is Kane to the top, 107.144. Very good lap from Kane, who takes provisional pole. Legend goes to second, 0.073. Who is the next man to complete a lap? It's going to be Placky across the start-finish line. He's 5/10 adrift, which so I would imagine that is a scrub set of tyres. As next then will be Rudy, I believe, to finish his qualifying. He's heading through the middle sector, though, just heading downhill towards turn number 9. That AlphaTauri looking to beat Placky's time so far, as he's actually backed off. He's not on a current lap. He's backed off, as unless he somehow manages to do the last sector in about 7 seconds, he won't quite be taking pole here in this one. We are just waiting for Skitzer and Levi, apologies, to set their qualifying laps. Levi rounding the final corner now. Rudy, though, I imagine is gearing up for another attempt here. He is. Let's see what the Dutchman can do.
Yeah, Rudy, maybe people's predictions for pole in today's session, but here we go through the center S's. Nicely done by Rudy. Now into turn 3 again, just keeping on that curb to help rotate the car around the corner and carry as much speed as possible. Now down into turn 4, 16.6 in the first sector, maybe a bit wide from the apex, but using all the track he possibly can on the exit. Now as we're going up into 6 and 7, a double apex corner here, down to 6th gear, and then just carry as much speed as possible for the exit to then fling you into turn 8 and then straight back on yourself to the left hand of turn 9. Hard exit, of course, due to the camber, and now down into turn 10. Very, very difficult to do as well. Now through turn 11, you don't really think about it, just keep it pinned and turn left, and now into Junsao. Turn 12, nicely done, maybe a bit away from the apex, but still carrying quite a nice amount of speed for it. Now into 13, 14 and 15, again, just keeps it as close to that inside as possible as he's coming up to the line. What would it be for Rudy? Is it a provisional pole? No, it's only good enough for P3 and only just behind Legend.
Here comes Levi to start finish line. Is this going to be pole position for him? No, 5/10 adrift. Purple sector 3. However, there goes Skitzer to the top. 107.117 for Skitzer, as both Haas cars are getting their qualifying underway, as is Wilson. 6 and 48 to go here in the session. Levi just seeing that lap traffic on his left hand side. I believe that's an alt set of tyres as well for him, but it's a 107.117 is the pole time so far. 0.027 is what separates Skitzer and Kane. It's an Xbox versus PlayStation duel here in Interlagos.
The exit of turn 7, and he did that last time, and he's done it again and paid the price once more. Who else is on a lap time? I think Bradders is.
Choco's backed off. Jerry has invalid. Bradders and Wilton has a valid as well. Bradders is the only man still on a qualifying lap here as he's heading in towards Ferradura on the uphill right-hander. Let's see how this one fares so far. It's not been too shabby in the first sector. Went purple, but we don't know how legitimate that one is.
No, we don't, knowing how this game likes to put purple sectors in when they're not. Choco goes to P7, obviously, after backing off. He's that. Bradders through turn 11. Now into turn 12, 50.7 in the middle sector for Bradders. Not the best middle sector we've seen, but certainly can still put him up into at least the top 4. So here we go. Bradders to the line. What would this be for the Red Bull? It's good enough for P5. 1 minute 7.377, just about a tenth and a half behind Rudy there. But still certainly timing that one. He can go again later on in the session. I think Legend also on a lap. Purple middle sector for him. Is he going to be able to dethrone Skitzer for provisional pole?
Here he goes. Here comes Legend.
The talent driver.
Of across the start-finish line. It's provisional pole. He's almost into the 106s here in Interlagos. 107.001. There's 4 minutes and 33 to go. Here comes Skitzer then across the start-finish line. No, dives into the pit lane. Doesn't finish that one. What about Choco? Here he comes. Can he throw a spanner in the works here? Choco across the line. It's onto the front row. That's a real good time from Choco to put his Haas Formula 1 car up there. What about Wilson? What can he do heading through turn number 14 and 15 in towards the Arqui Bancades? Can he set a blistering lap time across the start-finish line? It's going to be fourth. That's the second row of the grid for the Ferrari. That's not a bad job at all there for Wilson. But I think times are only going to be getting quicker.
Yeah, they certainly are, as these drivers will push more and more, and the track is rubbering in more and more. I expect at least Legend to get into the 1 minute sixes. I mean, he's 1,000th off. He's surely going to find at least 2,000ths to improve. I mean, Rudy's on an outlap now. He's just going extremely slowly. I think he's gone out a bit early compared to everybody else. But to be fair, heading in to turn 8, very shady, a bit more shady than usual. It seems like the sun is slowly starting to lower, but it shouldn't really affect the track too much. But no one on a lap at the moment. Rudy's still heading around very slowly, very out of sync compared to everybody else. Maybe just preparing, just in case he does have a mistake on his lap, to just back off and go again. So Rudy actually is still on the not going for it just yet. So maybe doing
2 installation laps here, maybe, because he's certainly not teeing up for a lap here. He's just going round and getting prepared. Levi back out on circuit as well. He is in 9th position currently, the only man not to set a time here in qualifying 3. That is Jerry Van Bussel. But Levi heading around in 9th. Legend, the man currently setting the pace with a 107.001. Will we see somebody into the 106s here? It might well be a possibility. Rudy is sort of sped up now, so... But no, he is just turning his DRS on and off. So he's doing 2 installation laps for whatever reason. Maybe just trying to burn a bit of fuel. Could be something along those lines. That would be a realistic possibility for the Dutchman here, as there is 2 minutes and 6 seconds to go. There's none of that shenanigans for Levi. He's got the final runs underway. Heading in towards the Senna S's. The Mercedes is not going to have any traffic on, or he will have some traffic actually. He'll have Jerry Van Bussel. That'll be the only piece of traffic on his lap, but I imagine Jerry will just get out of the way. I imagine he's an engineer telling him who is doing what. First sector for Levi, 16.7, not that competitive. He's 7/10 off. He's just under 7/10 off now with that first sector time. Needs a lot more in this middle and final sector, but I imagine the better tyres will be kicking in as he drives through the shade of turn number 8 in towards turn number 9, just rotating the car through. There is Rudy starting his lap now, as is his teammate Placky. Levi heading through 11. What's this middle sector like for the Mercedes? That's much better. That's a lot better for Levi. He's found 4/10 in that middle sector. Now out of Yonsao. Needs to have the run heading down this main straight, up the hill and down the hill. Whatever way you look at it, it's a long run from Yonsao to turn number 1. And what about Levi? Where can he put this? It's only going to be 7th position on the grid here for Levi. How is our AlphaTauris doing? Placky is actually on a lap ahead of Rudy now, so he's got to be careful of that. Is Keane on a lap? No, Keane is not. What about Wilson? Wilson just teeing up for one by the looks of things, meaning Placky will be next across the start-finish line. It'll then be Rudy, it'll then be Bratters, and we will have the top dogs coming in. As Bratters actually made a mistake on his lap there. He's backed off of it, so Bratters has backed off and he will go again. Only 26 seconds left. He's got to get around quickly if he wants a final run here in qualifying. Placky, he's going again actually as well, so it will be Rudy first to finish a time. Can he knock Legend off pole here in Brazil? He cannot. It'll be the front row of the grid for Rudy. He'll not quite knock Legend off his pedestal for now. Here comes Jerry Van Bussel across the start-finish line. What can he do? It's a Dutch 1-2. Can another name be added into the mix? No, it won't. It'll only be 7th for Jerry Van Bussel. Choco, of course, he is heading through the final corner. He's actually gone on another attempt. Here comes Choco down towards the start-finish line. No improvement for Choco. Next will be Legend Rosenberg. He's on pole here in Brazil. Brazil. Can he extend the margin? No, he cannot. The 106.9 was just too much. Is it too much for Skitzer across the line? It isn't, and he's on pole here in Brazil. An excellent lap for Skitzer. Wilson now has a target in his mind. The Ferrari across the start-finish line. It'll be the second row of the grid for Skitzer. Kean is invalid. He won't get a lap in. What about Brothers? We saw him back off. He arguably has the best track conditions of the day. Placky's found 0.4 of a second in that middle sector. Can the AlphaTauri pull a shock here in Interlagos? Down past the start finish line. Here comes Placky across the line. It's only going to be 7th. It's not quite a shock for him. Still a decent qualifying in the end. Brothers has gone purple in that middle sector. The new kid on the block in the Challenger Series is looking to go from 10th to 1st here in qualifying. Brothers across the line. I don't quite think he's got that one. And he's not. He's gone 6th.
P6 in the end for Brothers, but Skitzer, he pulled the lap time out when he needed it. Legend, unfortunately for him, wasn't able to improve. 44,000 separating the two, and not even a tenth separating the top 3. So we're surely going to be in for a very entertaining race. And Evan, take us through the qualifying order.
What a qualifying we had, apart from missing most of Q2. It was a very interesting one. Skitzer takes pole position for McLaren here in Interlagos with a pole time of 106.957. He produced the goods when it mattered. Legend in second, followed by Wilson in third. It's Rudy who lines up in fourth. Choco starts from fifth. Brothers in sixth, followed by Kean in seventh. It's Placky in eighth, followed by Jerry Van Bussel in ninth. And then Levi in 10th, the top 10 separated by 0.320. Folks, we'll be back after a short commercial break. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Autodromo. Jose Carlos Pache here, where the first race was held in 1973 for Formula 1. But the first ever race here was the third Grand Prix of Sao Paulo in 1940, was won by Nascimento Jr. The circuit here in Sao Paulo was actually designed by a British engineer. Luis Romero Sanson designed the famous piece of tarmac. It's a 4.309 kilometre circuit, 2.677 miles with 15 corners. The lap record here is still held by Juan Pablo Montoya from 2004. That's a 1:11.473. We'll definitely be going under that. It's about 36 gear changes per lap average in a Formula 1 car. It'll be more with short shifting here for these league races this evening, and it's about 64% on full throttle with the longest flat-out section of 1.394 metres. The top speed that the drivers will reach will be about 331 kilometres per hour. That would be probably in older F1 cars, but you know, estimates and that. It's a short run from pole to turn number 195 metres from the grid slot of Skitzer to the apex of the Senna S's. We head back to our infamous T-posing men in the garages, and we head back to the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache. Mr. Steve, who wins this one?
Oh, this is very difficult. I'm not wearing the shirt today, but I'm going to go for Skitzer in the McLaren. He just seemed very, very unstoppable in qualifying, and I reckon he could carry that on into the race. He does have good race pace from what I've seen, so yeah, I'm going for Skitzer for the win.
Just a brief update on the weather. As do you remember a famous race in 2008 where there was rain at the end for about 3 laps and people didn't really know what to do? It brought in is that Glock moment. I'm not saying anything just yet, but we might be getting a recreation this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let us know down below who you think is going to win this Brazilian Grand Prix. We're going to line up on the grid and get ready to go here for the final race of the Challengers tier. We thank you very much for joining us on this Sunday evening. So here we go then. Skitzer lining up on pole position for McLaren. Alongside him is Legend. 3, 4, 5. Red lights. And we go racing here in Brazil. Very good start that from Skitzer. Very good start from Wilson off the second row. Heading in towards turn number 1. There's a lot of movement in the back as well. Side by side. It's Rudy and Choco. Rudy looking to get a spot or two here potentially. On the exit then of the S's. Choco still looking under pressure from Brothers. It's too wide in the background. Jerry Van Bussel looking to make a name for himself with a big move in towards turn number 4. All pretty much line astern unless your name is Levi. Big dive up the inside for the Mercedes. There on the AlphaTauri Plaki. Bit of a wobble from Kai in the background. He's been swallowed up by Schumacher. He's been forced off the circuit as well by Rain and Jack Laverty heading in towards the Ferradura for the opening lap. Jerry Van Bussel up 2 spots. Schumacher, your biggest gainer. He's up 4 as they head in towards the middle sector. We'll take a look at the tyre choices. It's hards for all except Schumacher. That would explain his good start. Look at Levi trying to get a spot in towards the Bica de Pato. That gap is not really being left by Plaki. He doesn't have to at all. There's a car round. That is Levi, who we saw going for the move on Plaki. They went into the apex. They made contact. And Levi now round. Controversial on the opening lap here in Interlagos.
Yeah, not the start that Levi would have wanted. And now he's down and pretty much out of the race. At this point, Schumacher's all of a sudden dropped off. He's got wing damage.
No, a big move from Rudy up the inside of Wilson. This is for the podium. The AlphaTauri up the inside into the center S as he's now been forced onto the curb. Schumacher picking up a time penalty and he's into the pit lane. Levi and himself probably going to retire from this one. Look at Wilson. Just not able. Or apologies, Rudy not able to get past Wilson. The Ferrari keeps in front. Steve.
Yeah, not the start that Levi would have wanted. Schumacher and Kai, he did gain a few places off the start. He's up into P13 from P15 now, but he surely would be higher up if it wasn't for that a bit of carnage that he had on that opening lap. So maybe not what Kai would have wanted, as Rain's gone a bit wide in front of him. This could allow Kai to try and move, maybe going in to turn 10. He's thinking about it, but Rain...
Oh, he's gone for the outside, actually. He's just trying to get a better run than Rain. Bourbon Boy is trying to capitalise on this little bit of movement from Kai in front, but no. Kai looking okay. Of course, Kai crashed out of qualifying 2. In a literal sense, he did crash heading through turn number 9, and that was the end to his qualifying. Keane as well, looking to get a spot maybe on Jerry Van Bussel. Trust me, Jerry is not going to shy away from an overtake, as he's just trying to keep it with the best here in the Challengers tier. But it is Skitzer who leads up the top ahead of Legend by 7/10 of a second. It's Wilson then in 3rd, followed by Rudy in 4th. Then it's Choco, Brothers, Jerry Van Bussel, Keane, Murphy, Blackie, Kimber, Rain, Kai, Bourbon Boy, Legrief, Jack, Axe, Bobbers, Schumacher. Your non-finisher is Levi. As of now, remember, no safety cars or virtual safety cars in the Challengers tier, so if you do spin towards the back, unfortunately you are down and out.
Yeah, that's pretty much the harsh reality of it. It shows who the better drivers are, because of course they don't make the mistakes that put them down the order, and they need a safety car to catch up with, really. So at the moment, this is really where we just see drivers starting to get into their rhythm, start to build up their pace behind each other. DRS will be enabled, so we might see a few moves, but this DRS train will probably be prominent throughout the whole race, really, the 36 lap affair that we've got. So actually, I say that Kai has made a move on Rain, so I think Rain maybe made a mistake on the exit of Junsal there, and Kai is now up into P12, and Jerry has been overtaken by Kean.
Yeah, Jerry's been overtaken by Kean. There's an inter-team battle here at Talent Factory, and they've added another name to that list because Brothers is going to be swallowed up maybe by Kean, heading down the Retro Oposta here into towards the Descida de Lago. Kean is going for 2 and 4 corners. Can he get past Brothers? Just giving the Red Bull a real shove on the exit, but all fair. There was a perfect gap left for Brothers to keep his car on the outside. That's a great move from Keane, and his skill is really showing here in Sao Paulo. Excellent stuff from the Aston Martin. Brothers is now going to have to defend from Jerry Van Bussel, who is in 8th position. Murphy just a couple of tenths of a second behind this lot as well. He'll be looking to capitalise if something goes wrong between the Talent Factory crew.
Yep, he
Oh, mistake for
certainly
Jack.
will.
Oh, there's some big crash here. There's 4 cars round. Jack had a slow exit. Bobberts was round, so was Legrief, and so was Axe. So there's been a bit of a collision there between the 4 of them. That's an interesting one. It's very unfamiliar. We apologise that we didn't quite catch it, folks, but usually you don't see 4 cars gone at the one corner. Jerry looking to capitalise on a move on Bradders, but he wasn't able to. Keane runs very wide for the first part of the Senna S's. I think he'll be okay down the retro post. Won't be under too much pressure. Gap up the front is coming down. It's now 0.3 of a second between Skitzer and Legend, and Axe becomes the second man to retire from the Grand Prix. Bobberts is going to carry on, though. He's going to get some extra race run practice in.
Yeah, it's probably the smart thing to do for Bobberts. Just get that extra bit of practice in for the actual event. Just make sure that you know what the tyre will be like in the race. So the Bobberts is valuable data for the main event. But Jerry, I'm starting to think Bradders might be a little bit of a cork in the bottle. He's dropped 0.6 behind Kian now, and Kian's caught up to the back of Choco, as actually Kai's now made a mistake. He's now round on the exit of turn 10. It seems to be catching out so many drivers, so maybe just a bit too little downforce on the rear end, or just maybe getting a bit too eager on the throttle for some of these drivers at the moment.
Yeah, that's another mistake in that sector for Kai, and he is now down towards the back. Legend is slowly cutting into the lead of Skitzer, and there's a move in the background. That's Jerry Van Bussel, who's got past Bradders. I wouldn't even say that's a move, actually. I think that could have been a mistake by Bradders, because Murphy is looking to swallow up the Red Bull here. The Scarlet Red Ferrari versus the Blue Red Bull, heading in towards turn number 4. It'll be the Blue Red Bull that comes out on top here in this one. Bradders will hold 8, but it seems like Bradders' pace is just not there. He's used a lot of ERS as well. Kai and Legrief. Kai gets past Legrief now, and he's back up to 15th. He's not too far away from the train here. Some good laps put in, and he might well put himself back in contention for a points finish if a lot goes wrong. And from a strategy perspective, maybe there's another yellow flag at turn 1. That's Schumacher, unfortunately, who's gone round, and it's another bad showing for Schumacher here in the WOR Challengers tier.
Yeah, not the greatest of showings once again from Schumacher. He now picks up 3-second time penalties to make things go from bad to worse. But for Kai and Jack and everybody, if you lose the train, you lose so much time over.
Oh, here we go. Battle for the lead as Skitzer has lost the lead in towards turn number 1. It's Legend, sets the fastest lap, takes the lead while doing so. The Dutchman leads the Grand Prix here in Interlagos, and Skitzer is just going to have to funnel in behind. He'll keep with Legend, though. There's no question about it. These two are probably leaps and bounds ahead of everyone else on pace, but they are definitely very close together, as there's a 0.7 of a second gap back to Wilson. Rudy then in 4th, followed by Choco in 5th. It's Keane then in 6th, Jerry Van Bussel 7th, then it's Bradders, Murphy and Plackey. Rounds out your top 10 so far here in Interlagos. We're on the 7th lap of 36.
Yeah, very nice move there by Legend. I've noticed that about both Legend and Rudy, that when it comes to this point in the race, they always want to get ahead just so they're ahead for the whole pit window phase. So, I mean, we're not going to be too far away. About lap 16 is when majority of people will probably come in, maybe 17 as well. But I've noticed that both Legend and Rudy over the past few weeks, as soon as they get the opportunity to go in front, they will, because they know the other person behind won't really risk it too much. I say this, the Skits is getting very close, and look, he backs off it. So I've noticed that they both know that the driver behind will back off. They all think there's no point fighting, and they end up going on to have a very, very strong race. So this could actually be a very wise strategy here from Legend, just for Skipser to just stay behind, and maybe Legend can end up winning on this one, but it's still a very, very long race ahead.
The McLaren might come under pressure from Wilson as well if he backs off too much. Obviously, Legend was hounding Skitzer, and Skitzer had to increase his pace to try and keep the race lead. You're not going to check out really here in a race like this. You'll always have somebody up your gearbox or in front of you. So Skitzer has got to play this smart, has got to play this tactically. And he's going to want to just tread the needle carefully on where should he push, where should he back off, as Legend has a bit of a wobble through Yunsao. Skitzer turns on that ERS. They're both in a very similar point in that battery cycle, as it looks like Rudy might be challenging Wilson. Look at this. This is exactly what you said, Steve. Rudy and Legend want to get in front of the car in front. Is Rudy able to go for it, diving down the inside? No, not quite. Skitzer wasn't able to go for it on Legend. It's these four that are challenging for the race win at this point, you'd have to feel, as they head through the Center S's, through turn number 3, the Curva del Sol, and on towards the Retro Opposta. It is Legend who still leads come the end of it. There was no positional swap for the time being. Things got very close between Wilson and Rudy, though 2/10 to be exact.
Yeah, the drivers are starting to bunch up so much in this top 4 at the moment, and you could maybe see a move from anybody in this top 4 at the moment. So it's going to be super, super close as we start to head closer and closer to the pit window. We'll just see what strategy really the drivers choose. Do they fight? Do they just sit behind and just wait until maybe even get our undercut on the car ahead? So it's just going to be a waiting game, really. We might see a move from Rudy because, as I said, the Legend and Rudy do like to get ahead of the car they're battling with, just to make sure that they're in front for the pit stop window and they sort of can control what happens overall. So yeah, we're just going to have to wait and see what happens with this top 4. Choco is starting to catch up to Rudy now. So Choco, with all this sort of battling and all the train and everything, up to the back of Rudy now, and maybe starting to sneak his way into this fight.
We're over a quarter of the way through this Brazilian Grand Prix. Lap 18 will mark the halfway point, lap 9 marking the quarterly point. As things are just starting to spice up a little bit, it's sort of like a game of high-speed chess for now. Obviously, you're still driving, but when there's such a closeness in pace, you've got to think about, right, how do I get an advantage over these guys? You have to really, really think of what sort of strategies, where can I push, where can I not push? Do I just go flat out as, incident, Keane has gone round in the middle sector, a rare mistake from a very talented racing driver. But he spins on the exit of turn number 9, and that's another man out of the points for today. He's just funneled in ahead of Kai, and he's now 3.1 seconds adrift of Jack Laverty. He's a second adrift of Keane's teammate Bourbon Boy. Rare mistake for Keane, but mistakes do happen. Better to have them in a practice race than in the main one.
Yep, certainly. You would want to just make sure you iron them out now instead of making it on the big stage, really. And yeah, unfortunate for Keane. That might put a bit of pressure off Choco. He might now relax. He's got Jerry behind him now, who's 1.2 behind. He might catch up due to this sort of kerfuffle with this train, and just they're sort of holding each other up at the moment. But yeah, Choco probably a bit relieved with that because Keane was gaining ever so slightly, and now he's done what actually Kai did. I said that it's very rare to spin off and hit that wall. Keane's now done it as well, so that's 2 in the space of qualifying and the race. So yeah, unfortunate for Keane, but now Choco, will he turn his attention on getting past Rudy and making sure he's up into P4, or will he just sit behind?
I imagine he's going to just sit behind and play the same tactics that the 4 cars in front of him will, although I say that Skitzer's got the mother of all runs out of the exit of the unsound. He's been forced to the outside line here. Look at this. You don't usually see someone around the outside heading through that corner. Skitzer leads the Brazilian Grand Prix once again, heading in towards the Center S's. Legend has had his own tactics used against him, potentially, as Skitzer leads once again here in Brazil. He made that look simple. He's not lost anything or compromised his run through the first corner. The McLaren back on top here in Interlagos. The most successful team in Interlagos, proving themselves to still be that.
Yeah.
Unless you look at Bobberts, of course, who is in 17th.
Yeah, but we don't talk about that for McLaren. But I mean, Bobberts has been very unlucky. He was in part of that 4-car tangle up at turn 10. So not really much he could do, you would think. But yeah, Skitzer, I think he just got the run. Maybe Legend had a little bit of a wobble. Luckily for Skitzer, he had the DRS, Legend didn't. So he was sort of able to make the move a lot easier and not really compromise his turn 1 and 2 for Legend to come back at him and get him down the Retro Opposta.
I think Legend might have thought that Skitzer wouldn't have went for the outside. I think that's why he kind of positioned his car like that. but because Legend is a very crafty racer, so that might be potentially what he was thinking. Here comes Rudy.
Oh, Rudy.
Can Taisho Hardy find a way past Wilson in front? It's last of the late breakers from the Dutchman here on the Scuderia Ferrari. Rudy trying it round the outside. He's been forced over the curb for not the first time in this Grand Prix. The AlphaTauri losing a bit of time because of it. Is Choco able to capitalise potentially on that AlphaTauri, the Red Bull Powertrains powered AlphaTauri, or Honda, but he's still trying to get in front. No joy here for the Haas, but Wilson, bit of breathing room because of that, but I can't imagine Rudy will be too happy with Wilson not necessarily leaving him the space on the exit of the Curva del Sol.
Yeah, not really. The room was not there for Rudy. He was warranted space. He should have got space from Wilson there, but Wilson just sort of closed the door and maybe a bit of understeer from turning in from the right to the left. So yeah, not the greatest from Wilson there, but hopefully Rudy is able to catch up. He's still within DRS, so he's not lost too much time. But that battling's now put Wilson 8 tenths behind Legend, and I don't... Oh, Legend might actually be going for a
Legend.
move.
Here comes Legend. He's gunning for this one. Into the first corner, the center S's. Legend leads once again in Brazil, but Skitzer is nip and tuck with that Williams racing machine. This is like a classic battle from the days of Senna as they exit the Senna S's. It's McLaren versus Williams in towards the Decido de Lago, but no, there's no move for Skitzer on this occasion. Legend will hold the lead once again here in the 14th lap. This is high-speed chess for who gets into that pit lane first.
Yeah, it certainly is. Choco's just disconnected, so I'll get it back in, but it actually brought Wilson back into DRS because Wilson did actually lose it going down into turn 2, and that could have been costly. So if Skitzer didn't battled there, it would have been even more of a gain for Wilson. So yeah, Wilson lucky to get back in with the DRS. He's now 6 tenths behind, but Rudy still going for it here. I need to get Choco back into the session.
Rudy is still hounding
what Choco needs.
Wilson, as Steve is going to get Choco back into the race here, as he's not losing that much time to Jerry. Oh, Pitters, Plackey, Kimber, Rain diving into the pit lane. There's an undercut attempt here by those three. As Choco almost falling out of DRS now. Yeah, he's definitely a disconnected car. There's another Alpine that's disconnected. I think that's Schumacher, though. I think he's going a lap down. I think I saw some blue flags on the previous lap. Lap 14, we're on lap 15 now out of 36. Halfway point is fast approaching, as it's a very quick lap time, as you're all aware of, here in Interlagos. But for now, your top 10 is Legend, Skitzer, Wilson, Rudy, Choco, and I say that Jerry going ahead of Choco, Murphy, Jack, Bourbon Boy and Legrief, but we've had Bradders, Plackey and Kimber and Rain, and of course all below that all make a pit stop of those below that made their pit stops earlier after they had their own separate incidents. Will we see Skitzer or Legend into the pit lane? Will we see Wilson or Rudy into the pit lane? I imagine we'll see at least one of them, if not more. Legend is into the pit lane, Skitzer carries on, Wilson and Rudy also carry on. Legend is going to try and force a defensive maneuver here by covering off the undercut. Skitzer says, "You can do that, sir. I'm going to carry on my merry way and try the overcut here in Interlagos," which can sometimes work as well. If Legend comes out in some traffic, that might work quite nicely for Skitzer. As Legend is going to come out, or is he going to come out in some traffic?
No,
I think Legend's played this beautifully.
Just clear.
He's got to come out in clean air as Kai sets the fastest lap. There is Legend on the exit of the pit lane. The closest car to him is Lagarife, who's 4.8 up the road. Very good call from the Talent Factory driver.
Yeah, Legend, as I said earlier, he loves getting in front to control the strategy. He can either cut off the undercut or just keep staying out for the overcut. Bradders now picks up a 3-second time penalty. It's the same with Rudy as well. They like getting ahead of the car that they're battling with to control the strategy in the pit window and just make sure that whatever they have to do, the other car will surely do the opposite unless it's like last desperate pit lane. And Wilson's now in. Let's see where he comes out compared to Legend. Kai picks up a 3-second time penalty now. So it'll be about a second between Wilson and Legend. That's about how far they were to each other on track. So let's see the
A little
gap
bit
now.
more, maybe a little bit more, but we will
Yeah.
see how this one plays out. Here's Legend. Just crosses the start-finish line now. You'll see the Scuderia Ferrari. There he is. They're almost parallel, heading through the first couple of corners. But of course, that is a wider pit exit for Wilson. Here he comes, and he's way behind. Way behind Legend. 2.1, and he still hasn't even attempted to heat up those tyres. Wow. Undercut.
Yeah.
Very powerful here today in Brazil. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Today, it certainly is.
Yeah, it all depends on the track conditions, really, for Brazil. I mean, most tracks, it's dominated by one strategy, but a track like Brazil, depending on the way the track conditions are, if it's a cold track or a warm track, that really depends on the overall power of each strategy. Skitzer will come in now. Rudy stays out one more time, but Wilson has come out so far behind Legend. For me, it says 6 tenths, but it's not updating for some reason. Wilson's time's glitched for me. But let's just see how far Skitzer comes out behind then. And does he come out behind Wilson with how powerful that undercut is? Because it was only about 6 tenths between the two. And by the way Legend's gained, Wilson's surely going to get out ahead, you would think.
Well, Legend is certainly going to be ahead of Skitzer. This race win battle might well be over, and I hate to say that at the halfway point in the race. And here comes Wilson. Here comes Wilson. It's McLaren versus Ferrari down the Descida del Lago in towards the Retro Aposta in towards the Descida del Lago. Wilson is in second position in the Brazilian Grand Prix. The undercut is so powerful here. Skitzer is going to have to be provisional third. But where does Rudy funnel into all this? Rudy could fall into the clutches of some of the earlier pitters. It is Legend in the provisional race lead, Wilson provisional second, Skitzer provisional third, Joe, even Bussell provisional fourth. Rudy is surely going to pit this lap.
Yeah, if he wants to just really... Yeah, that's sort of the smartest option. He doesn't want to fall down more. I mean, Kimber could be having a shout with him if he stayed out for one more lap. So... Jerry, he's had a very quiet and very good race, actually, Jerry. He's now within DRS of Skitzer, and was about, 2 seconds behind him? 3 seconds, maybe, before the pit window? So Jerry's had a really good strategy here. Is he going to come out ahead of Rudy?
Jerry's going to get Rudy here. Jerry is is he? Well, yes, he is, because he has the run around the outside of the Curva del Sol. And Rudy still has to heat up his tyres, but that's going to be a battle to the end. Because I'd say Rudy is still the quicker driver. That's going to be a dogfight to the end, and he's a bit more battery to utilise. But Jerry gets in front of Rudy. Good call that from Jerry from a strategy perspective. That's Placky round on the exit of the pit lane. Or, apologies, not on the exit of the pit lane, way further down in the exit of the pit lane. But on that straight, he wasn't just leaving the pit lane, he's on 4-lap all Pirelli mediums. But still making a mistake. He funnels down with Keane and actually gets back in front Keane, so already making amends.
Yeah, so Placky, unfortunate for him, isn't actually in a very good position. I think he was just behind Bradders, so yeah, he would have gained maybe a few more places, especially with the more drivers coming into the pit lane, but yeah, unfortunate there really for Placky. I mean, Wilson's still 2.4 behind Legend. He's not really made an indent on that gap, so yeah, it seems that Legend sort of has this one in the bag. You wouldn't expect Legend to make a mistake really in this race, and yeah, he's surely got this one in the bag. It's going to be a battle for second though that we need to look out on. Wilson versus Skitzer. Kai retires in the pit lane, but now it's Ferrari versus McLaren for P2, and this is surely going to be a good one between these the pair of drivers that we've got, because they both certainly will want to prove that they have got it for the Challengers event later this week.
As Legrief is becoming a huge cork in the bottle here for Wilson. Is Legrief going to defend this into the back of the path? No, he's going to let the Ferrari slice up the inside. Legrief doesn't want to lose an awful lot of time, but that's worked out so well for Skitzer, because Skitzer hasn't even had to think about overtaking Legrief, and now he's right on the tail of Wilson. Wilson would have been hoping, that Alpine would have held up the McLaren. Remember, folks, there might be some rain in this race come to the end as well, so it is not over until the checkered flag. Skitzer, is he close enough for a move on lap 21 of proceedings? He isn't, but Rudy has already dispatched Jerry Van Bussel. And Rudy now I wouldn't count him out of second place just yet, because we know one thing: it's you don't doubt Taicho Hardy. He always finds a way to prove you just a little bit wrong.
Yep, he certainly does. And to be fair, I actually completely forgot about the rain at the end of the race.
Yeah, I also did until that point.
Yeah, it's been such an entertaining race that the rain never really crossed my mind. So, I mean, Legends, this could still, like, just be a very entertaining ending. Legend can still throw this one away, depending on how wet it gets. But knowing the game, it is very, very sketchy with the rain. It can look wet enough for the intermediates, but the slicks are still somehow quicker. So it's going to be just a test of driver skill and driver knowledge. But here comes Skitzer. He's surely going to get Wilson here. He's going to get him maybe just before the DRS zone. And it's easy as you like. DRS versus no DRS. Skitzer to the inside for turn 15. Gets the move done before they even exit turn 15 and onto the main straight. And there we go. Sixth place, which is net P2 now for Skitzer. And it's 2.1 between him and Legend. So the gap has come down from a few laps ago. It's now 1.9.
Yeah, and here comes Jerry Van Bussel looking to get past Lagreef, but this is of course not necessarily a battle for position. It is a physical battle for position, but in terms of a strategy battle, not really. Lagreef not pulling out of the way. He doesn't have to. He's more than entitled to fight this one. It's more just sort of a gentleman's rule, as he's just held an outside line, and he's just going to allow Jerry, or is he? No, he's not. He's going to keep on the inside. He's going to force Jerry the long way, and Jerry does now get the spot, but you kind of could have guessed that, wouldn't it? That was going to be a successful manoeuvre for Jerry Van Bussel. Jack Choco Murphy not pitting just yet. I believe Choco is back in his car himself, as it's starting to darken a little bit over this Interlagos circuit. I'm not a betting man, but my bet would be that the top four in Lagreef are just holding out for maybe a few droplets towards the end of this race. Skitzer sits the fastest lap, 109.1.
Yeah, he's getting closer. It's now 1.4. He gained about half a second on that lap. So Skitzer is flying at the moment. But yeah, surely the top four and Lagreef are praying. They'll be praying for some rain anytime soon. Those tyres are on the verge of puncturing, you would think, especially with the amount of graining that you can see on the tyre. So, yeah, they're really going to be praying for some rain. It is getting darker. The clouds are starting to cover the circuit a lot more. And also the track will be a bit cooler, so it wouldn't really wear the tyre as much as it would on a hotter circuit. So we're just going to have to wait and see if the rain comes. Maybe in the next 5 laps is probably their limit, the top 4. So it's going to be a waiting game for now. And Legend is closing up to the back of Bourbon. But Skitzer, now 1.1 behind Legend. He is absolutely flying on these mediums. And Legend may have to start looking in his rearview mirror.
Legend is going to be seeing that gap decrease rapidly. Although the only thing is, no, I was going to say Legend might just be saving his battery, but he isn't. He isn't at all. The only saving grace for Legend is not many will beat him in the rain. I reckon Lewis Hamilton might have a bit of trouble beating Legend in the rain on this day, let alone Skitzer. So Skitzer's going to have to put in a mighty performance here if he wants to try and get past Legend, but this has been an unbelievable second stint so far for the American. In the Papaya Orange McLaren, which has been driven by many great Americans before him, he's looking to hunt down the Dutchman, who is just being held up a little bit by Bourbon Boy. Is Bourbon Boy going to do a favour for his Xbox pal and just hold up the Williams racing machine for a little bit? It's starting to get dull here in Interlagos, isn't it? Rain could well and truly be on the way. Legend not able to dispatch Bourbon Boy just yet. Luke in the chat saying is there rain on the way? Just right on cue, Luke. Yes, there is. We have a bit of rain expected, sort of 2008 conditions here in Interlagos. Here comes Legend Rosenberg going to get in towards 4th position. There wasn't much Bourbon Boy could do there. But now though, does Bourbon Boy just allow Skitzer to pass? Surely he is gonna here, Steve.
Yeah, you would maybe think so, especially with how he let Legend.
Although, to be fair, this is almost for a position, because Bourbon Boy, what Bourbon Boy is gambling on is that there's rain here and everyone has to make a pit stop, but those better tyres on the McLaren are surely just going to come out on top in this battle. It's two British engineered machines going head to head here in the battle for 5th, and there goes Skitzer! Big move up the inside in towards turn number 8, well executed. Still is Bourbon Boy on the inside. Bourbon's got to be a little bit careful here, just make sure his front isn't chopped off by Skitzer. Good move for Skitzer, gets past with minimal damage. Now a second adrift of the Dutchman in front of him.
Yeah, just losing that DRS to Legend is Skitzer from that battle, but at the end of the day, Bourbon didn't
Look
have
at
to
this,
give up
Wilson.
position.
Wilson hounding Bourbon Boy, trying to get past. Bit of a wobble for Skitzer in front. That McLaren may be feeling a little bit of degradation here on the 25th lap of this Brazilian Grand Prix. Wilson is going to make things much easier than Skitzer did, and he's going to do very similar to what Legend did a couple of laps before him, and he is up and past. Jack Laverty now pressuring Choco. Choco's just lost his mojo since that disconnect. He's just not really been able to capitalise on his position in this race. Choco was running really well as well. He was in 4th at one point, but he's just not able to capitalise too well. As look at this. This is no, apologies. That's a lap car. That's Schumacher.
This could actually maybe pose a threat to Legend's lead here. Choco and Jack fighting,
because these are not going to pull out of the way. There's no way these will pull out of the way, because they're in a genuine good position in this race. They'll be seeing the cloud cover. I could become a geography nerd and start talking all about it, but we won't. What we'll say though is it's looking like rain is soon. There's a bit of a wobble from Jack. Maybe that track temperature just cooling down and affecting these Pirelli hards. Legend needs to get past arguably two of them in the next couple of corners, as here he comes round the outside. Look how close they got, heading through. And Legend still on the outside, trying what Skitzer tried on him on a previous lap earlier on in this race. Who's going to break the later of the two? Legend just has the extra grip, but Jack Laverty keeping up the inside. The birthday boy trying to put on a show here in Brazil. Skitzer now needs to try and get past Jack and try capitalise on Legend not getting past him as easy. The ERS is flashing on probably every car in this 70 of the 17 remaining. Legend still has Jack right on his tail. Look at Skitzer, he's got the run. Rain retires. He's not the Rain we're looking for, but he has retired from the Grand Prix, and he will become the 4th man not to complete the 100% race distance. Skitzer is gone for a dive here, just like he did on Bourbon Boy, as here he comes. Has he got the job done yet on Jack? Forces it round the outside. That's another great move from Skitzer. He's got that corner in his pocket at this point.
Yeah, he really does, mate. And now we'll maybe see Wilson do the same as Legend and get by, but Jack, he's just really struggling for grip out there at the moment. Those tyres have certainly hit the cliff on all of the hard runners. You'll think Wilson would get by here. He's got the ERS advantage. Here he comes in the slipstream. Here comes Wilson to the inside on Jack. He's going to get that move done. He'll brake later in the braking zone, and it's nicely done. He don't even need the braking zone, and he's done it before.
Wilson's having handy enough time here, isn't he? It's
rain!
Oh, rain. There we go! There we go! It's come down, it's raining, it's pouring, and Legend is trying to get past Choco for second position. The rain is coming down here in Brazil. This track has caused so much chaos in previous years of Formula 1. It's not going to let the challengers tier go and pass without bringing that little bit of chaos as well. It's not going to give us an easy finale. Is Legend? Oh, he wasn't left any space there. Had to go across the curb. Went for the dive on Choco. Tried the Skitzer as it's self-acclaimed now, and he was forced onto the curb. I think that one will be removed if it was appealed. Not too sure on the Stewart's stance there. Oh, look at that one. That's Xbox helping Xbox. Or is there a puncture here for Choco? No, it just looked like that was a very irregular movement by the Haas Formula 1 car, as he did actually lose 2 spots in it. He's now battling with Jack. This is a battle for position pretty much. Rudy is going to dismantle these as well. I think that was a case of Xbox helping Xbox though here in Interlagos. It's not raining that heavy though, as here comes Rudy. Big dive up the inside of the Alfa Romeo. It's not as big as first thought. He's made that one look fairly simple, and he's going to get that job done on Jack Laverty around the outside. It's certainly raining now though. Legend is looking to try and retake the lead here for the first time since he pit on lap number 17 of this Grand Prix. It's been back markers that he's had to cut through, but the back markers might be the cause of his own demise here in Interlagos. It's raining. There's a bit of sun. But it's not all rainbows. If your name is Legend Rosenberg. Big dive up the inside once again. Murphy has a bit more bravery on the brakes and stays in front of the Williams. Here into the Bica de Pato. It's... Oh! Legend is in the wall! Goes to the outside! Oh, no. He's in the wall and out of the Grand Prix!
Oh my god! Legend! That's a very big rookie error there. He's tried swinging it out to the outside. He's overshot it and put it in the wall, and that's Choco round as well now. But Legend throwing it away. I think the Choco incident, he sent that a bit too late in my eyes. He was...
Here comes Skitzer now on Murphy. Here comes Skitzer for the race lead. The seas have parted. For Skitzer, he's drawing it around the outside of the Ferrari. It's a Ferrari 2-3. Remember the last time Ferraris went side by side down the Retro Oposta here in Brazil, but it's a lot more easier. Look at Wilson. Wilson's in race win contention now, out of absolutely nowhere. Lap 30 out of 36. Legend is out of the race. Is that the biggest bottle in Brazil since the 2014 World Cup semi-final? You can be the decider of that one, but Legend is out here as Legrief pits for Inters.
Wow, I'm still so shocked on that Legends incident. I don't get how he overshot that so much. He tried to swing it out to the left, maybe carrying a bit too much overspeed, maybe to avoid Joe Murphy braking early, and he's put it in the wall. I mean, Skitz is lucky for that, because now, I mean, he was within DRS about 4 tenths behind. That's Braddock's now spinning round on the exit of turn 9. Skitzer was about 4 tenths behind. He could have maybe got the move done with DRS if Legend did get past Joe Murphy, and now here comes Wilson for the race lead. Here comes Wilson.
It's the race lead for the Scuderia Ferrari. Skitzer is into second. It was a Dutchman that Skitzer was fighting. It was the PlayStation driver of Legend, who's been oh so good in this Challengers tier and in the Esports Challenger Series. He now has a Ferrari of Wilson in front of him. Skitzer is not getting things his own way here. Is he going to look up the inside? No, he isn't. It's raining. I'm not so sure it's going to get wet enough for the Inters, though. It certainly slicks for the time being. It could be deceiving. The track might feel a lot worse than it looks, but for now it still looks like it's okay. It could still be slicks to the end, or as I say that, the DRS has been disabled by all those in FIA race control, so the track is certainly a wet one now. Will it be the indication for these guys to pit for Inters? I want to see their second sector time though, and we'll see how slow it really is. Oh, it's starting to lose its grip. There's an Alpine off. That is Schumacher who's off, and they're lapping 3.3 off the PBs. It's a pit for Inters, I think, here, as yeah, it's a confusing one because it is sunny as well. Will we see dry conditions? Are they diving in? No, both staying out. So Wilson and Skitzer are both happy to carry on, as it's got to be Murphy in. Remember, of course, these guys still have to do a mandatory stop. They haven't pit yet in this race, both himself and Bourbon Boy. That's why we did see Choco and Jack Laverty pull into the pit lane. This lap car might be slightly annoying for Skitzer, but that's not going to matter for now because he has the run on Wilson. No, not quite. Still going to have to sit behind. Don't count out Rudy in this one either. As we said before, you can never really count out Taisha Hardy.
No, you can't even count out Joe Murphy here because, to be fair, now you can see the rain droplets on the track. The DRS disabled is usually the indicator that it's time for intermediates because it's not safe enough for the slicks.
Oh, Jack! Oh no, maybe it is not intermediates. Jack's got all over on the curb, through the curve of Del Sol, and he has had a bit of a half spin. He's actually caught that really well. That's sort of Verstappen 2014-esque when he was doing some FP sessions for Red Bull. Great save from the American, the birthday boy, just in case I haven't mentioned it enough this evening. Skitzer though, gonna try pile on the pressure no matter the conditions. He's got to try get past the Ferrari one way or another. Both similar from a battery perspective, both similar from a pace perspective. This is going to be down to the pure skill of overtaking and defending that will decide this Brazilian Grand Prix. Rudy into the pit lane. He feels it's Inters.
Intermediates are so far clear. I've just checked the gap between Wilson and Joe Murphy. It's closing. It's closing, but it's risk versus reward at this point. Are you going to lose more by pitting compared to staying out? It is literally, this is the same conundrum that Timo Glock had in the 2008 Brazilian Grand Prix, and we also had that ended up. Can I remind you who was battling for the championship win on that day, ladies and gentlemen? It was Scuderia Ferrari versus McLaren. Oh, this is going to be... it's certainly intermediates. They
It's,
can't
it's
stay out
definitely
like this.
Inters. It definitely is Inters. Placky is now third in this Grand Prix. It's certainly Inters. Joe Murphy gaining quite a lot on this top three. He's certainly going to have Placky, but it's a 17.4 second gap between Wilson and Skitzer. Placky, to be fair to him, is actually catching Skitzer, but it's not by a lot. You really got to use all your skill here in Brazil.
Yeah, I would come in if I was Skitzer and Wilson. You're going to lose too much time staying out.
If they pit at this point, will they lose the race? Oh, well, we'll find out, won't we? Wilson pit. Skitzer carries on, and Skitzer is going to go for the race win on the slicks. Wilson is going to follow the status quo and go for the intermediates. Placky, what does he do? Surely he's got to stay out at this point. Look, he's already made the gamble. He is, but look who's up as inside. Joe Murphy goes for third position and gets it.
Yeah, he's going to get Wilson as well.
Here is Wilson. There is his Ferrari teammate. It's going to be an inter-team battle at Scuderia Ferrari as Wilson has the slower run at a pit exit. Look, it's AlphaTauri versus Ferrari. Italy versus Italy. And Rudy gets past here. Wilson comes out right behind. Wilson has got to get past Placky as well. The mediums are terrible. It's Joe Murphy versus Skitzer. This is a race to the finish. Can Joe Murphy catch 16.8 seconds in the final laps here at Interlagos to win the Brazilian Grand Prix? Can Skitzer just keep it on the asphalt?
I mean, Skitzer's literally stopping through turn 10. He's 7.2 seconds down on his personal best lap time. Murphy in the first sector, 7/10 down. Oh,
it's probably not a good representation of Murphy if he's only 7/10 off his PB on the Inters. He's 3 seconds down there, so he's lapping about 4 seconds quicker. That's not enough, as Schumacher gets a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. That is not enough for Joe Murphy as Choco has retired. That's a crash heading in towards Yonsao corner. That's turn number 12. It's just on the entrance of it, so he's probably just lost the car there on the Inters. That's Choco out of the final race of the season. 13.5, 13.4, 13.3. Wilson picks up a 3, and now they are all just trying to push as much as they can. 13 seconds now. This is all down to if Skitzer can keep it on the asphalt. It really is. Look how slow. This is the slowest you will ever see. Turn number 8 taken in towards turn number 9 of Pinheirinho. And look at this. He's just battling the car. 11.6, 11.5. This is coming down. The gap is coming down extremely quickly. This race is building up to a crescendo. This is going to be the best last lap of the season for sure. 10.1 into Yonsao. Oh, this is agonisingly slow for Skitzer. 9 seconds now as he's heading through turn number 15. Turn number 14, apologies, in towards 15 of the Arquibancados. It's just about flat, and that's a flat corner normally on the Inters even. 7.3 is the gap for Joe Murphy to catch on the final lap here in Interlagos. This is a drive from Skitzer that maybe the man the corners he's heading through it, Senna would be proud of, as he's battling this car on the slicks, in the wet, in the car Senna won his 3 World Championships in. 6 seconds now. Murphy is hounding him down. Rudy's hounding down Murphy as well. Is it even going to be Joe Murphy to take the win if they catch him heading into towards the left-hander? Skitzer 4.2 now. He's starting to get confidence in this McLaren. He's starting to feel good about this maybe. 4.5 now the gap heading in towards Ferradura for the final time. The last lap of the season. One of the best laps of the season. 3.4. There's a visual representation from Joe Murphy now. This is going to be a drag race to the line as they head exiting Yonsao. 2.3, 2.1, 1.9 into the Big of the Pato. Look how close this is getting. Is Joe Murphy going to get it? We're almost into the last sector now as they head through Marigulio. Joe Murphy takes the lead of the Brazilian Grand Prix into the final braking zone of the season. The Ferrari exits the final corner. What an unbelievable result this is from Joe Murphy. A tactical masterclass. Skitzer was just 2 corners off. Joe Murphy wins the Brazilian Grand Prix. Rudy takes second. It's a double Ferrari podium. It isn't actually, as Wilson had his penalty. Jerry Van Bussel will take third. Skitzer in 4th. Wilson will take 5th. Kimber in 6th. Where has Kimber come from in 6th? Jack Laverty will take 7th. The 17-year-old who turned 17 today takes 7th, Bourbon Boy in 8th, Keane in 9th, it's 8th and 9th. Le Grief is in 10th after a double elimination for Alpine in qualifying 1, a good result for him. Bradders will come home in 11th. Pace just wasn't really there for Bradders, but he knows what to work on for the Challengers Series. Bobberts will come home in 12th. Both McLarens tried to get it home on the slicks. And once again, it does not work for McLaren trying to get it home on the slicks. Joe Murphy wins Brazilian Grand Prix.
Wow, that's the best race we've had all season.
Oh, that yeah, by far.
By far. That was absolutely amazing. I respect the commitment from Skitzer to just stay out on those mediums. I reckon he could have done that if he might have just tried carrying a bit more speed through some of those corners, especially turn 8. I think that's what cost him big time. Turn 8 and turn 10. He was so slow, excruciatingly slow through the corners. Maybe if he carried an extra 20 mile an hour more, he could have maybe done something with it.
If he carried an extra 20 mile an hour more, though, that car was going round. That was genuinely the quickest. He could probably drive that as, you know what, we're in a Ferrari outfit. My goodness me, is that cursed. But that is Joe Murphy, who takes the win on his first race here in the Challengers tier. That's going to be one he'll remember for quite a while. That's going to be one I think I'll remember for quite a while, and I'm so glad that we did get so many more viewers who came into the stream chat for the end of that one. I would like to think that you all thoroughly enjoyed that one, because my goodness me, it was an excellent race. Joe Murphy saying in the Challengers chat that he is shaking, and rightly so. He called about 11 seconds in the final 2 laps of this race, and look at the weather in the background, Steve. If only we had that for the whole race, that would have been a lackluster one. Joe Murphy started 11th, got knocked out in the qualifying 2 that we had an issue and didn't even get to see, and wins here in Brazil. The track designed by a Brit sees a Brit win it here in Sao Paulo. Rudy finishes in 2nd. It is Jerry Van Bussel who finishes in 3rd. Skitzer in 4th, followed by Wilson in 5th. Kimber in 6th, followed by Jack Lavany in 7th. Bourbon Boy in 8th, and then Keane in 9th. Your final point scoring finisher was Le Grief in 10th position. It is then Bradders, Bobberts, Plackey, Schumacher, and your non-finishers were Choco, Legend, Rain, Kai, Axe, and Levi, who retired in the very, very early points of the session. What a 6 races we've had. It was only a practice tier, but my goodness me, did we have drama, did we have controversy, and did we have some really good racing.
Yeah, that race probably goes down in the history books. That was a really good race. It had from just the start, it being so entertaining with all the overtakes, the strategy battle, then Legend involving Joe Murphy actually maybe trying to avoid him hitting the wall. Joe Murphy going for the intermediates, managing to catch all the way back up to Skitzer. That was so entertaining. A very good season, in fact. And I mean, hopefully, the main Challengers tier has that, so everyone's entertained, but not on the level that we had because, we're the better tier.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed that one, because I certainly did. I need to lie down after that one, I think. I'm a bit too old for doing that sort of thing, no. But what an unbelievable 6 races we had. World Online Racing finishes Season 14 and F1 2022 with a bang. The F1 2023 seasons will be 10 times better, ladies and gentlemen. So make sure you stick around for them. A big thanks once again to our sponsors, Next Level Racing and Gridfinder, which you will hear about in the next couple of seconds. But folks, stay safe, stay well, and we'll see you next time.